Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Megaman X7. In the last we took care of Soldier Stone Kong's Deep Forest stage and rescued every Reploid within, as we're going to be doing with every stage. And now it's time for us to follow the weakness chain and head on over to the Radio Tower stage with our same party as usual.
Tonion!
Not for nothing, I do like the boss name screen theme. There's not much music in this game I'm super attached to, but there's some. Be careful, we're getting strong energy readings. You're very close, you should be able to see it. I'll look for the giant mechanoid's weak point. You find a good approach point. Tornado Tonion stage is sort of a revisit to the stair section in Split Mushroom stage in Megaman X4, and then it's just a giant spiral staircase split up into two sections with the mini-boss. With that said, it makes finding the Reploids super easy because they all literally spawn in your pathway, but it's also very bland and uninteresting, not to mention we got giant crab guy here, just firing missiles at us, giant fireballs that explode on contact, arms that try to stab you. There could be a little bit happening here, to say the least. Now, something I forgot to mention last part is what we got for beating Soldier Stone Kong 4-0. We got his, what's the name of it? Gokumonken, I think? Which is a counter stance ability where if you hold the square button with 0, he'll eventually start glowing green, and enemies that attack him or touch him will just take damage. It's a surprisingly damaging attack, even against the boss, which is kind of rare in this game. Analysis complete. His head is his weak point. Concentrate firepower there. The reason I say, even for this game with that, is honestly, most of the boss weaknesses don't do enough damage relative to the length of the health bars in this game, I feel. Even like the Mega Man X charge versions we're going to get later on are pretty weak. Now, this crab mini-boss can do more or less everything he did during the little chase section there. Fire out the wheels, fire the missiles, giant fireballs, hand attacks, but he does gain one new attack. And that it'll eventually retreat back into its shell, and at specific points will spawn out blades and just start spinning around like a blender. With that said, I've also had this thing endlessly spawn this attack for upwards of like 5 minutes before, so I'm not sure if it's supposed to send this out every certain amount of HP or if it's just like a percentage chance. Either way, you get really tired of this attack after a while. Now, something I should also note is that the game is a little bit weird with its 3D sections in that there's a reason there's two things up there in the top right side of the screen, the 2D and 3D bar, which obviously denotes whether or not you're in a 2D or a 3D control section. But then there's the camera icon. This game doesn't use the L1, R1 buttons to swip your special weapons like X4, 5, and 6 did, and instead uses the right analog stick for that. L1 and R1 are for camera control in this game, namely slight rotation, and it's limited but responsive, I guess. It's honestly something that so rarely comes up, it's not really worth talking about almost. Now, notably, the Gaia shield we also got last part can deflect certain projectiles like Z-Saber does, and I think you can specifically do that against one part of the final boss, but I just never do it because that weapon is slow. Now, let's talk about the voice acting in this game. Obviously, so far, it's been less than stellar, but there's some surprisingly well-known people in this game. For instance, just recently, the voice actor of X in this game, I believe his name is Peter Von Gom. He's also Gray from ZX Advent. I think he's like 2 voiced characters in Tales of Fantasia. But I think he's also been the voice of Copen from Gunvolts and Springman from ARMS, if memory serves. So he could definitely do good voicing, it's just that this game's direction is bad. And time for the second half of the stage. Head for the top of that tower. We're getting an even stronger reading than the last one. The second half of the stage is the same as the first, only now there's going to be gaps you have to jump over, although in one case that's also where the Reploids and the heart tank for the stage are. Zero in this game is voiced by Jack Merluzzi, who I think has been Iori in at least one King of Fighters game, Master Albert in ZX Advent, and I think he's also Black Shadow in F-Zero GX. In fact, I think he's a couple of voices in GX. He's probably my favorite voice actor in this game in terms of, like, new castings, and out of people that still do stuff semi-regularly. Axel is voiced by Len Hart, who I think doesn't even do much voice acting anymore. I know she's also the voice of Musashi from the PS2 Brave Fencer Musashi sequel that was really bad. And I think she's also in the first Fatal Frame, and maybe Shenmue. Aelia, despite not getting too many voiced lines in this game, is voiced by, I think, Rumiko Varnes, who I think was Pandora in ZX Advent. I think she was in Pokken. And some of the Tekken games, I think. I think she was also the voice of the main character in the first Fatal Frame, now that I think about it. The funniest voice actor choice thus far that has gotten enough lines for me to talk about is Cygnus. Cygnus is voiced by Robert Belgrade, who some people might remember as Alucard from Symphony of the Night's PlayStation 1 version. I think he was also someone in like certain Shenmue games and shit. I think he's also been Optimus Prime at least once. Most recently he was, what was his name? Orlok, I think, in Bloodstained. And Soldier Stone Kong was voiced by Walter Roberts, who I think is Master Mikhail in ZX Advent. And that's about all of note from my memory, aside from one other voice in this game, which is technically still a spoiler, so oh well. Whereas I think Tornado Tanyan's also voiced by Jack Merluzzi. There's some good voice actors in this game, it's just that for the roles they were chosen for, they're really poor. Also coming up here is a rare instance in the Mega Man X games, reappearing, disappearing blocks right out of the Mega Man Classic games. Ah, good old Yoku. The problem presents itself when you have to get the heart tank which spawns inside the last one of these things. To grab it, you have to stand on top of it and then fall back down through it. Once you fall, there's no real way to recover to get to the platform to the right, so you need to backtrack through level design to get it to get back to there. And yeah, that's annoying. I don't like that at all, really. With that said, we're already at the end of the stage. Let's go over to Tornado Tonion.
Around and around! Welcome to my silly, silly stage. Here goes nothing. Yes! Boing! What? No funny? But I try so hard, so hard! Okay, try again, huh? Around and around!
Okay, I get the picture. Let's get this over with.
Aww!
Tornado Tanyan's honestly a little bit of an annoying maverick, but he can get some good damage in pretty early on by using Goku Moken for, Zero, because he'll just spin right into you, and there goes half his health bar. With that said, this game also incorporates slightly different phase shifts in all of its bosses, where after about the halfway point of their health, they change up the pattern a little bit. Then in the second half of his health, Tornado Tonion likes to just spin around in a circle around the arena. If you get too close, he'll electrify himself, like so. And when he's not doing that, he's either sending his plates at you and little waves, where the amount of which varies on how many you shot off of him, because you can shoot them off of him. They are an active shield. The only part of Tonion you can actively damage is the inner core, I should note. And eventually, he'll use whatever ones he has and sweep higher, low, and high with them like he's about to do now. With that said, this is the best point to shoot him because he leaves himself so openly open. That's redundant, but I don't care, because I can barely speak half the time. Don't get too close to Tornado Tonion again, as it does make him do this, and while that also leaves him open, that's a bit of a surprisingly wide-reaching attack that you can easily be surprised by the range of. At the end of the day, though, as long as you use Goku Moken, it's very easy to drain Tornado Tanyan's health, as he just doesn't have much in the terms of a defense at that point. Yeah, he seems like he has more HP than he actually does due to his shields, but that only does so much. Also, I believe what he's actively doing during this phase is trying to spin towards the center of the stage, in which case he does another version of the Electrify attack. But as you can see, either he decides to not do it sometimes, or he just doesn't. This game's bosses aren't exactly stellarly designed. Also, you might notice there's a level below the number of below the red alert logo, rather, at the boss's health bar. That only changes their HP every couple of levels. Like, I think level 1 has a full health bar, level 2 has, no, like level 4 has like a health bar and a quarter, level 6 is like a health bar and a half, and then level 8's 2 health bars, but I think you only see 2 full health bars on hard mode. Either way, for beating Tornado Tonion, we get Volt Tornado for X and Axel. This weapon unleashes an electric tornado, can use ray gun, It also does switch Axel's gun to a ray gun, which has a slightly different firing rate and damage calculation, all that sort of shit. Volt Tornado itself, though, you generate a tornado around you that spins for a bit and then moves forward. For Zero, you get, I think Kurai Jinsho is its name, where you dash and then press the triangle button to do more or less an uppercut attack that spawns a Volt Tornado. Also, I'm speeding up the Reploid screen every time from now on, because it takes a while to get through. By and large, like I said last, but I do recommend putting your rescue chips, the upgrade chips rather, from the Reploids into Zero and X, because I feel X just straight up outclasses Axel in all ways towards the end game. But because I'm trying to make my playthrough as less annoying for me as I can, I am going to still put some into Axel so he can kill enemies just the slightest bit faster. With that said, as is pattern after a stage in this game, time for a cutscene.
Like I said, my friends in Red Alert are all really skilled Reploids.
Except I heard they were mostly criminals.
No, they don't do anything bad. Well, at least most of the time.
What's your point?
I'm serious. They really didn't do bad until suddenly everyone changed.
Suddenly? What do you mean?
When the Maverick Hunters, even the Reploids, stopped following Red's orders.
Bizarre. Also, not for nothing, I actually really like this game's dialogue portraits. I think they have really good, not only shape language, but just really good art in general.
Splash! Warfly!
Either way, we got an electric weapon from the last area, so of course the water stage is next, but it's not even the usual Megaman water stage. The old battleship is their headquarters. Looks like they move in a convoy. Cool. Now, this is easily the worst stage in the game in terms of load times, because it's made up of like 5 or 6 very small sections. It's like carpet bombing. You can't dodge that. If only you had the power of a runner bomb. Now, I'm not sure what they're implying there. I'm not sure if they're saying, hey, you can use the runner bomb to avoid getting detected by enemies here or something, because it's never worth doing at the end of the day. Now, what is a little bit unusual for this stage is that we have like 3 or 4 very distinctly different mini-bosses. And the first one here is going to be this weird jet plane on a platform. You're going to want to switch over to the Volt Tornado we just got, which as you can see changes Axel's pistol into a more dolphin-y looking one. And if you press the triangle button, well, there goes that mini-boss. Volt Tornado really kicks its ass. I usually try not to use the special weapon that is the weakness of a Maverick when I'm in a stage, but since you can switch characters on the fly and they have different weapon energy bars, Zero is just the better person to use for the boss fight in this stage. The runner bombs are destroying the battleship. They intend to take you with them. Well, that's just not good at all. Also, I should note, Splash Warfly, I believe, is voiced by Ryan Dries in the dub here, who I think was Jeffrey in some of the Virtua Fighter games, Samurai Goro in GX, and Prometheus in ZX Advent. Also, don't be like me. Don't try to take out these cannon walls one at a time. Just use either Zero's Volt Tornado attack, Raijinsho, or Volt Tornado with Axel. Take most of them out in one shot. You do need to destroy that wall to progress, though, I should note. Now, the really annoying thing in this stage is they decide to hide the heart tank and even the sub-tank in this stage in really annoying ways, and that it's just hidden behind a box. The camera doesn't show it too well, but there it is right there. I think I may have actually grabbed it already, but the sub-tanks are back. They work the exact same way. When you get an energy pickup and your health is full, it'll overflow into that, and you can use that to restore your HP at any point in time. There are 2 sub-tanks in this game and 1 weapons tank, so you can refill 1 weapon of your choice, or is it every weapon? I forget exactly how it works in this game. It's, I'm glad it's there, but honestly, between damage values in this game being very all over the place, I feel, and your own powers being very all over the place in terms of how useful they are, I don't find the sub-tanks too useful in this game. Because either the boss's patterns are super easy to avoid, or I'm gonna be dead before I can think about using it anyway.
Ready?
Now you want to be careful in this section if you're going for every single Reploid, as not only are more things hidden behind boxes, including I think the heart tank for this stage, but those boxes right there in the distance, those are bombs that eventually explode, and it's very easy to lose a Reploid to those. Honestly though, the more I play this game, the more I realize I think the biggest fault of this game from a design standpoint is, yeah, the 3D can lead them to doing some interesting environment stuff like this battleship, at least semi-interesting at best. But because of it, they end up sacrificing level mechanics, I feel. Because very few stages in this game have straight-up unique mechanics. Usually it's just, here's the lava stage, it's the same platforming over lava with maybe a steam vent. Here's the water stage, it's full of explosives. The only stages I can think of in this game that are truly unique in terms of mechanics might just be Snipe Anteater stage and Ride Borsky from memory. I think. Oh no, Wind Crowrang is a little bit unique. But barring those, a lot of the actual level platforming is just straight lines with nothing to do. And I cannot but wonder if that's because in a 3D sense, it's just easier to avoid a lot of level mechanics, so they didn't decide to make any super unique ones. It's one of the reasons I find this game to be worse than X6. Because yeah, X6 is bad with hitboxes and level design, but at least every level tries to be something different. Every stage feels super samey. Honestly, there's certain stages in this game you could show me a screenshot of, and I have to struggle to remember which stage it's actively in, unless it's like, obviously, here's the lava, here's the ride bike, here's the water. Either way, we have a surprisingly beefy mini-boss here against this robot. The things you need to destroy to defeat it are the cannons, and it's got two other attacks outside of the cannons themselves. The cannons only fire when the top body with a head commands them to, but when you destroy a cannon, the body morphs into a giant head, which fires these gigantic homing shots that home better than you feel like they should be able to. I have a better time dodging them when I move towards or away from the camera rather than left to right with it, but what you're supposed to do, I feel, is use an ability I haven't mentioned that Axel has yet, his dodge roll. If you dash and then almost immediately press the dash button again, Axel just does a little dodge roll right out of Kingdom Hearts 1. It doesn't go too far, but it does have a surprisingly high amount of invincibility frames. It's just seldom useful in any real regard. And now for the final section of the stage. The entire ship's been blown to shit. Don't fall in the water here. It is, of course, a bottomless pit, but by and large, it's the most straight-up section of the stage. Also, nice to see those robots back from the intro stage in Mega Man X1 again. I haven't seen those mechanoids in a while. Though the shields they generate are surprisingly annoying to get through. Because unlike Mega Man X8, there's not really a way to easily break shields other than waiting for them to end or just mashing the fire button in this game. In X8, they outright added certain abilities, I believe, that could break shields. Like, I think X's charge shot, just spamming them enough with Axel's gun and slashing at them enough will actively do a break. Either way, we're already at the end of the stage, so it's time for Splash Warfly.
You've made it this far, but this is the end of the line.
Your battleship lies at the bottom of the sea. Don't you think it's about time you made your escape?
Idiots! This is all according to plan.
What?
You've turned this into the ideal battlefield for me. Take this!
Alright, without his weakness, Splash Warfly is one of the worst bosses in the game, but with it, he's laughably easy because you just use the Bolt Tornado Raijin show on him, he jumps into the water, jumps back out somewhere else, and you repeat. Sometimes he'll get one of his attacks in, but otherwise, this fight goes by real quick. As for what he can do, he can run around the platform swinging his spear in various ways, be it rushes, swipes, and stabs. He can use a slight water gun, which doesn't have range, but can cover a lot of the platforms, though I should note, you can jump from platform to platform here, but you almost never need to. And I think there's an attack he can do where he stabs the ground, which causes water to spray out in certain missiles that home in on you. Honestly, as you can see, he doesn't get much of a chance to do anything in this fight because I always bring Zero here because he's super easy with Zero. That's Splash Warfly. His stage is kind of annoying, especially in terms of length due to load times, but the boss himself with his weakness is almost zero problems. And for beating him, we get a bit of an odd thing for Zero. Like Axel, we're actively going to get a new weapon type for him, a Naginata. Or is it a glaive? I forget the exact. Suri Retsuen. With the D glaive equipped, press the triangle button. Equip the water blade armed D glaive to launch a pulsating thrust attack. You just stab forward with the spear. That's about it. X and Axel get the water spray ability, which is just a water gun. It doesn't do much damage, though its charge shot with X later on can be surprisingly useful if you remember you have it. Again, Hunter rank doesn't really do much of anything. I have looked around. I don't even think GameFAQs guide users have found anything about what it does. It doesn't seem to influence difficulty or anything. So maybe it's just a, hey, you've played the game a lot sort of deal. But that said, your ranks can go up and down, so be careful, I guess. Because I know whenever I have to do some minor cleanup in this game, usually with X, I usually get him up to, like, B rank, but then by the next few stages, it's down back to D. Also, the reason I usually don't invest upgrade chips into the speed stats is that I often find the upgrades for it just aren't as useful in an early term as the early special and power ability upgrades.
So you said they suddenly changed.
Yeah! One day, Red suddenly asked me to hand over the copied DNA data. He never asked me to do that before.
You don't mean...
Exactly! Soon after that, they started getting more and more powerful.
So they used the DNA data?
I think so. But Red didn't tell me everything. All I know is that I was used for my stupid ability.
And the plot unfolds further. Not for nothing, I honestly do kind of like Axel's arc in this game, even if I hate his voice. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 4, the meme. See you guys then.